After a couple weeks of waiting, we finally have some more Marvel content to review and talk about, and that is She-Hulk Episode 1, where we're going to be talking about the first episode in full spoilers, so make sure to leave your thoughts down below, as well as go check out the end credit scene if for some reason you missed it. It was a great gag and a great end joke from something that they had set up earlier in the episode, and I'm sure a lot of you guys maybe have missed it, so let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are on this first episode as well, if you think this episode is better than the first trailer that they gave us, because if you're like me, I was not the biggest fan of that first trailer. I thought it was fun, and I thought some of the comedy really worked well, but the CGI was almost abysmal, and honestly, for me, just was not to the par of what I think we should have, and in a way, was pretty distracting. But now, after seeing, more trailers and going to Comic-Con and getting to see some clips and just more stuff from the show, and really much get understanding that this is a 30-minute action comedy that involves Jennifer Walters as the Hulk, who, if you know who She-Hulk is, she's also a lawyer who breaks the fourth wall, and her comics have always been pretty fun. I've never fully invested myself in them, but the ones that I have enjoyed myself reading, they're engaging, they're entertaining, and this feels right out of a comic. They do change some certain things when it comes down to some of the ways that she gets the powers, but just within the opening scene, where she's having that discussion with one of the lawyers and her paralegal and how her closing statement's going to be, and the lawyer's like, fine, don't listen to me, don't listen to the actual lawyer, but the hype that she has around there. And when she leaves the room, then wait, I have to go do something, turns around, and then has that conversation with herself, breaking the fourth wall with us as an audience, was something that just made me giddy and delightful. And I like when comic book heroes do that, such as She-Hulk and, of course, Deadpool, two of the most iconic characters to do things like that. But then we see, she's like, let's reverse this back a bit. I was going on a road trip with my cousin Bruce. Now, I do wish they kind of would have eased this into there a little bit more into the relationship, since this is the first time we're ever being introduced to her, ever hearing about her, really much ever hearing a little bit more about Bruce Banner's past. This is important details that I wish, for a 30-minute procedural show, this is the one thing that I think is going to hold the show back overall, is while they're playing around with the 30-minute realm, there's going to be elements where I'm going to wish you would extend that a little bit more. Like 10, 15 more minutes would have given us a little bit more development between these two. Because for me, while they're family and I get their cousins, I don't know about you, I've never really taken a trip with my cousin before. And, I'm close with them, but not as close as, it's trying to make it out that these two are. So where were they going? Why were they going on a trip? Whatever. So they bring us into there, and they're having a great discussion about, leading into the conversation that many of us on the internet have, is Steve Rogers a virgin? Because he's doing this, he's done that, and I was laughing. I thought, this is funny, and Tatiana Maslany, who's an amazing actress, does such a good job bringing that humor to life, and her comedic timing is actually really well done in this moment. And that entire thing, and the way that the end credit scene ties into that as well, was really hilarious, because they're drinking, and she finally gets him to admit what was going on when he slept, and that guy talk that guys obviously have, and I like that they play around with that, and I had so much fun with that, because we also get to hear a side of Hulk and Bruce Banner of stuff that the Avengers got to do on the backside, that they actually were friends outside of just being work buddies and friends from work, like Thor would say. So I really overall like that humor, but I also like, we get some explanations to what's been going on with the Hulk. How is he human form? He built that device that we saw in Shang-Chi. We also see that, of course, when they get into the car crash, because this giant ship comes down, and it's like, what the hell is this? Where is that coming from? But the Hulk, Bruce Banner just tells us, I'll figure that out later, which I'm sure we'll either figure it out this season or later down the road in the MCU. But it also, I was about to give a theory, but I'm going to keep that to the side for now. But what I'm going to say about this is it does tie into the thing that happens at the end, where he says things just happen to the Hulk. Things get attracted to the Hulk, and that's what it goes about. And same thing that happens in the whole courtroom that she's at the very end. Wall breaks in, and this actress flies in, who I think her name is Tatiana. I'm not sure on the actual character's name. I've never heard of this character before, but it's played by Jamil, something of that nature. And badass, cool, break down the door. But before we get to that part, I want to go back and talk about, of course, they get in the car accident. The blood goes inside of her. A little bit different from the comics. Wish they kind of would have just kept the comics, to be honest with you. I think it would have made a little bit more sense, to be honest. But whatever. This is how it goes. And then, of course, she goes on a freak out. She turns into the She-Hulk. She starts running to the forest. These girls find her. They make her pretty. Then these guys start catcalling her. And then she goes all berserk rage. And then the Hulk bags her and takes her back to the bar that him and Tony had, which I really like that moment of him mentioning, you know, me and Tony made this, but mostly just Tony was just watching me drinking while I made it, which, again, sweet and fun, and I like that moment. I'm curious, when did they make that? Was it, like, I feel like it was around, like, Age of Ultron time, but I digress. Talking a little bit more about this, though, and their relationship that they form here is the first time that we're seeing this. So seeing how Bruce is kind of testing her and seeing, like, hey, like, we have to bring the big, mean, green person out, and he's taking from his experience, but reality is, it's only her in that body that she just forms. It's the same person, which makes a little bit of a different thing for him, a different perpendicular and the thing for him to view. Now, I did like how they mentioned that he fixed his arm, which I wish they would have kept that his arm was broken to show the sacrifices that happened from Endgame. Whatever. This is the MCU. It's comics. I just turn my brain off from there. But seeing the reunion, seeing this whole entire thing, them throwing rocks, them training, them doing yoga, them doing meditations for all this, and seeing how frustrated she gets, but she makes something that's very common, and I know some people are probably going to get annoyed from this, but her statement about saying, like, I have to control my anger every single day is something that I feel like is really real. Talking with my sister, my mom, my fiance, and other people in my life who have been in those scenarios, that is true shit. And I really like that the show itself really is self-contained and brings that to life, but also just continues to show the frustration in Tatiana Maslany's character, Jennifer Walters, and it makes her a very interesting and relatable character for many people, and I'm excited to see where She-Hulk continues from there, because while Mark Ruffalo is so awesome as Bruce Banner, and I definitely just want more of him as Bruce and back to the regular Hulk, this is the most I've liked Smart Hulk in a while. While he still has some dumb one-liners that I'm not the biggest fan of, this is the most I've liked of him in forever. And I never liked the Smart Hulk character. I did not like him in Endgame too much. I thought that was one of the weaker aspects of the entire film. I gotta say, I think Bruce really did a great job, and Mark Ruffalo really brings it to life. But the one thing a lot of people want to talk about probably is the visual effects. How are the visual effects looking? I think they look a lot better. Hulk looks awesome. She-Hulk, there's a couple things that look a little bit weird, but not completely. I think it looks weird to my eyes because, one, I'm watching this and I'm like, that is clearly not a real person. But two, yeah, that's really all it is. So I think the visual effects are better. They're not top tier, they're not perfect, but they're not as bad as that first trailer made it out to be. And when you're watching this in 4K 1080p quality, and it's not being constrained to a YouTube algorithm and the way that YouTube constrains videos at times, it looks a lot better. And it didn't bother me. And that's what the biggest thing is, that bad visual effects can ruin a good show. But this is already a good show with some hilarious moments to it. But overall, a new character that I'm really starting to like, a lot of the reason because of Tatiana Maslany, who does an amazing job as Jennifer Walters. It's all because of her personality that really infuses it into the show and carries and shows how much personality the show has. And that's one thing I really want to give the shows of this year. Whether it's Moon Knight, whether it's Ms. Marvel, which has some of the best personality yet in the MCU, or this show, I already feel self-contained to a certain degree, but also expanding the MCU in a new way that feels like how comic books would be at times when they're expanding and showing a different vibe than we've seen before. And She-Hulk is very much that. So overall, I'm very excited to see what the next episode brings. I didn't love this. I didn't hate it, but I really enjoyed it for what it was. And I know some people, this is not going to be for everyone. I completely understand. But for me, it was. And it was nice seeing how they work together. I just wish the episode was a little bit longer so we could get a little bit more of their relationship before she turns into She-Hulk. But other than that, I think this was a nice, fun surprise. And the first episode was a success that I'm going to keep continuing to watch this show. So guys, let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are on this first episode of She-Hulk. Do you agree with me? Do you not? Did you absolutely hate it? Did you go into this with new expectations after seeing the last trailer? Are you excited for when Daredevil shows up? I'm assuming he's probably not going to show up for a while, but still excited nonetheless. Thank you guys again so much for watching this. And of course, until next time, stay classy.